Hey, Southeast Missouri sports fans. Enjoy the show and want to take it on the go? You can find every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or YouTube. Tune in as they air by searching SEMO Sports Zone wherever you may be listening. Welcome to the SEMO Sports Zone presented by A-Corp Sports. You're listening to this on Monday, March 10th. Dave, we had a pretty big weekend.
Yeah, really big weekend. Got a lot of got several teams going to the Final Four, a couple teams still alive, and one team that didn't quite make it, and but that's unfortunate. But yeah, it was a really fun weekend of basketball.
Yeah, I think overall, I think pretty much everybody was kind of happy with at least the competitive nature of most of these games. You had two. When you look at the scores, it's kind of lopsided. But at the same time, like that's not the way the game played out. Obviously, we saw Class 3 quarterfinal up close and in person, so we know how different a game is compared to the score.
Yeah, absolutely, because that game, the 21-point margin was not that. That was a tight game, pretty much through about 3.5 quarters, and then it just kind of got away from Jefferson. But yeah, it's a lot of good basketball games. Really, I mean. You just look up and down. There was a lot of good basketball being played, and it's all on Friday night, that's kind of unfortunate that everything was at basically at one time. But other than that, I mean, it was a great night of basketball.
Absolutely. All right, you want to get started with Class 1 quarterfinal?
Let's do it.
So we got Risco versus Chadwick at Sparta. Ended that game 60-64.
Yeah, tough loss for Risco. I mean, if you find me two better Class 1 teams, I don't think you can do that. I think that for me, that's probably the state championship game, and it's unfortunate that Risco just doesn't get to that Final Four that we were hoping they would get to. But it was a great game, back and forth. Risco had chances, Chadwick had chances, both in regulation to put it away, and neither could. It was just one team. Neither team would go away, and it's just a terrific basketball game.
Yeah, and from what I saw is just Risco played their style of basketball. They pretty much excelled most of the game, I would say, in how their style plays out. Chadwick was just they're a machine. Yeah. Garrison on that team, he looks like a monster. So
yeah, he did so much, and early on, they Risco did a nice job of taking away his shot, but he was getting the ball to open guys. Tristan Smith really stepped up for him early, hit some big threes, but Garrison did such a nice job facilitating defensively. He blocked 5 or 6 shots. He's 6'1", he plays 6'6", in my opinion. I mean, he's just a tough player, and then they got an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter. Risco really started to press them and force some turnovers, and were able to tie the game. And it was just a heck of a basketball game.
Yeah, I think for Risco, it is very disappointing. I know for that community, it's a very disappointing way to end your season. But at the same time, if you're a fan of high school basketball, I think this is one of those games that you kind of have to circle and just say this was a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't hang your head if you're a Risco. I mean, I know they're disappointed now, but this is one of those that you look back and where they finished 27-3 or something like that. Yeah, something like that. I mean, it was just a terrific season for Risco, and you just fell just one game short, and you hate that, but at the same time, it's just you can't take away. This has been a great basketball team for Risco. Probably, in my opinion, maybe the best basketball team they've had, in the last 25 years at least.
Yeah, and you meet any of those kids on that team, that the passion they have for the sport, and just the togetherness they have, and that community is so tight knit that. This was a big year for them. And like you said, nothing to hang your head about. This was an awesome year for your basketball team.
Yeah, and nothing brings together a community like a good winning basketball team like this. And it just brings everybody together and just kind of a feel good. And again, it's disappointing when you lose like that. But, man, they left it all out on the floor and did everything they needed to win this game. It's just Chadwick was just a little bit better at the end. And it's just tough. But at the same time, kudos to Risco.
Yeah, and I think the biggest controversy about this game is, how Risco fans feel about, some calls on those threes. And, at the end of the day, that's the official's call. I have a stance on how games end when it comes to an official, and it cuts both ways for me. Is, you can't let a game, you can't lose a game on an official's call. You have to outright win it. That's it always sucks when it comes to these situations, but that's how I see it.
Yeah, it definitely changed the game, the one, especially in overtime. But at the same time, it's a tough call. I mean, we've looked at it a couple times, and the official immediately called it a 2, and so it is what it is. Tough break for Risco, and you can't really tell from 100% one way or the other. It's just a tough way to. You hate to have something like that kind of linger over a game, but at the same time, that would have just tied it. It wouldn't have put Risco ahead, so you still got to finish the game.
Yeah,
and Chadwick, like I said, did what they needed to do to win the game. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it is what it is. And this is a great Risco season, and my hat's off to them for playing as hard as they did, and they left it all out on the floor.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to Class 2 quarterfinal, Puxco versus South Iron, 61-43.
Yeah, this one, Puxco just went wire to wire, and they're just rolling right now. And they've got the Burchard is getting some points, but it's the other guys that are stepping up right now. Hancock had 20, Zimmerman had 15. Their defense, of course, we've talked about their defense. They've got a good defense, and it held Huff to 17. I say held Huff to 17 because he's a good player that can get. He got 37, I think, against Hayti. So he's going to get points, but they held him to where he only got 17, and he's the main thing for South Iron. So Puxco did exactly what they needed to do. They kind of erased the memory of last year's quarterfinal and getting to make that Final Four for the first time since 1953, I believe.
Yeah, first time in 72 years. Yeah. Very impressive. And for Puxco at this point, I think they understood this going into this game. I said that this was one of those games where you still have to be like, okay, we still have to win this game. I don't think that there wasn't a shadow in their mind that they weren't going to win this game. Like you said last week, it was just by how much.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was pretty emblematic in this game because this is looking just at the score margin. This is what we've seen from Puxco all year at this point.
Yeah, and they'll see some tough teams coming up here in the Final Four, but they're rolling right now, and you can't. When South Iron made a little run there early in the third quarter, Puxco just rolled off a 15-4 run and put it away, and that's what they've been doing, especially these last three weeks or so. They've just been doing everything they need to do. They're shooting it well, and it's like I said after district tournament. There's no reason this Puxco team can't win a state title, and I think they have the best chance of any team in Southeast Missouri to win a state title. There's some good teams that are going to play up to the Final Four, but they've got as good a chance as anybody to bring home a first place trophy.
Yeah, and you have to look at it as just a fan of SEMO basketball at this point. Puxco, as much as a menace they've been to every team in the area, you kind of have to rally behind them now.
Oh yeah, it's funny because when you're battling it in during the course of the year, and I went back and forth with some Puxco fans and stuff, but at the same time, once you get out of districts, it's like you want every one of these teams to do well and go and win a state title. We want to bring as many state titles home to Southeast Missouri as we can, and so, yeah, we want every one of these. We want, Puxco and Woodland and Sykeston and Dexter. We want all four of them to bring home state titles if they can. That's what we want. And so, yeah, everybody kind of roots for each other once you kind of get through the local rivalries.
And then let's talk about Class 3 quarterfinal, Jefferson versus Woodland, 51-72.
Yeah, that game, like you talked about, it was a lot closer than the score.
Especially in the first half.
Yeah, the first half was nip and tuck. Jefferson did a really nice job getting the ball inside. They did a nice job of rebounding, getting some offensive rebounds and some putbacks there to keep it close. And Jefferson was a lot better than what I thought they were going to be. And then come out in the second half. Woodland really picked up their defense. And I thought Jefferson settled for too many threes. Woodland did a nice job trying to take away that interior pass to the Broadwater kid, who's really good, by the way. Just a sophomore, he'll be back. But Woodland did a nice job taking away that interior pass, and then Jefferson just had to settle for the threes. And then at the very end, it was just turned into a layup drill because Jefferson was kind of in desperation mode and kind of throwing it, making some passes that they generally wouldn't try to make, and Woodland got some steals and some easy layups to make this margin look a little bit bigger than it was. But man, Woodland looked good. When they get rolling like that, and they did in the second half, they are a very, very good basketball team. And Kinder played great. Calvin Layton hit some big shots early, and Lane Lee, I thought he had a tremendous second half. So it was a great atmosphere, loud. My ears were ringing for for 24 hours after that. But it was a lot of fun, and kudos to Woodland, and good luck to them. But the first time they make the Final Four, it's just a really cool thing.
Yeah, and kind of to your point on just how the game went too, is I didn't feel like any three in that game was an uncontested three. Like most of the time, it's just like there's always one defender at least trying to make that grab at you. No, it was a very good game. Like you said, Lane Lee, he had a great second half. I thought in the first half, I thought that was one of the points that I was like, okay, he's got to get kind of into this game. And that second half adjustment, he absolutely did. Kinder got his.
Yeah.
It's weird to see kind of not the same thing that happened with the East Prairie game. Obviously that point margin at the very start was not the same, but I felt like Woodland started out slow, but they've got this way of wearing teams down just because I feel like they can interchange any of those players off the bench into their, into the court as often as they need to. The amount of times I see Coach Kinder switch somebody out, it feels like it was every other minute. And, great to have that, because when you have depth like that, you can do that. And your defense doesn't slow down. Your offense can pick it back up. And that's absolutely what they did in this game. Yeah,
absolutely. And their defense just harasses you. And they can do that because they sub in so much, so they keep fresh legs on the floor a lot. And, that helps. But at the end of the game, kind of wear you down. And that's what happened with Jefferson. They just kind of wore down at the end. They weren't used to playing at that pace. It was an up and down game, even though it wasn't a really, really high scoring game. I mean, it was a pace that was up and down.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think Jefferson's used to playing that pace. And we were saying that on the broadcast. It's just like, well, at some point this may come into play. And you could really tell that Jefferson was tired, especially there in that late fourth quarter.
Well, I mean, Woodland just runs with you too. And, from the production side, when I have cameramen saying it's like, I can't get a hero shot, he's running too fast.
Yeah. Well, and we were talking about, well, are they going to get tired? Well, Calvin Layton is like one of the best, cross country runners in the state, and he's not going to get tired.
No.
You can play him out there all you want. He's just not going to get tired. And these guys are made for that pace. And
yeah, when conditioning's your side gig, I don't think you're really going to have to worry about running up and down the court.
Yeah. This is not going to bother him. And so yeah, it was just Woodland plays that nice pace, and like I said, I think they just kind of wore Jefferson down.
Yeah. How do you feel about Stoddard County now? Just
man, I tell you what, we spent a lot of time, kind of talking. Well, Stoddard County's good, Boot Hill's good, and but it was obviously Stoddard County is the class. I mean, they got 4 district titles out of it. They've got 3 teams still alive here in the 1st of March, and that's impressive, and just a heck of a year for the Stoddard County Conference. And these teams are all young for the most part. Puxico's got some seniors, but Richland's going to have some guys back. Dexter's got a lot back. Woodland's got a lot back. I mean, these are teams that are going to be probably good next year as well. So,
and you got teams on the up and up too.
Absolutely. Bell City, Advance are coming up, and you got some good teams at Bernie, obviously. The entire conference is good, and it's just going to be another good year next year. But this year, just 4. I don't know if it's ever happened that you've had 4 teams from one conference, get district titles. And so kudos to them. It's just been a great year for that Stoddard County Conference.
Absolutely. Speaking of Stoddard County, let's talk about Dexter versus Notre Dame. I didn't expect this game to go this way. 37-35.
Yeah, after Notre Dame handled them a couple of weeks ago, by 20 plus, you kind of thought, well, Notre Dame's probably going to have this game in hand. They're all seniors. Dexter's young. But it didn't work out that way. Dexter started strong. They jumped out to a 7-0 lead. Obviously, I said in the last podcast that for Dexter to win this game, they were going to have to keep it 50s or lower. And 37-35 is definitely 50s or lower. So they controlled the pace. Notre Dame played tight. That happens whenever I think you're seniors and this is your last chance and you don't want to mess things up. I know Dohan was sick and wasn't 100%, but that's no excuse. They were also missing Hudson Dennis, who dislocated his kneecap in the Fredericktown game, so he missed that game too. So they weren't 100%, but still you would think that Notre Dame team would have enough to beat this Dexter team. But no, Dexter, Coach Allen had a great game plan. Dexter, did what they needed to do. Temple's hit a couple big threes there in the third quarter. Dexter led most of the fourth. Colton Johnson, he had a big shot to tie it there at 35 with 30 seconds left, but then Sepulvedo made the shot with about 5 seconds left on the runner, and it was just a really nice win for Dexter. Just a very kind of surprising game, but very that's the type of game that Dexter needed a 37-35 game to win, and they got it.
Yeah, I think surprising was the word I would use for it. I kind of threw out a take last week that, I kind of half-heartedly, but I said it a Dexter team like this, it's hard to beat them multiple times. Obviously not for Puxco. That's a different circumstance, but I feel like Dexter usually, after they get beaten, they usually come in with a game plan to kind of, calibrate themselves against the teams they play. And I think that's most likely what happened in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got a good coaching staff there. I mean, Chad Allen's one of the best in the business. And then, Rob Nichols was a head coach for a long time at Dexter. He knows his stuff. And Tony Webb's there this year, and he knows his stuff. So you've got 3 really good coaches on the sideline there. They're going to be able to make adjustments and have game plans. And it's just up to the guys to execute. And the only bad thing about this is there was not many people there to watch it. And hopefully Dexter fans kind of rally behind this team and show up on Monday night, because you want a big crowd to follow this team. It's unfortunate that there wasn't many people there. I get it was in Fredericktown. That's not an easy place to get to, but this wasn't a marquee game. A lot of other games going on in the area, but man, it was unfortunate that there wasn't a bigger crowd there for that game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, coming up too in the sectional, it's going to be at Dexter. There's no excuse not to go out and show out for your team.
Yeah, I hope that place is packed with Dexter fans. I mean, this team has earned it. I mean, it may not be the best team that Dexter's ever had out there, but this is a good team that you win a district title. You're hosting a sectional game. I mean, I hope everybody's out there to watch it and get there and support the Bearcats, and maybe they can get this win against Potosi.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Class 5, District 1, Hillsborough versus Farmington, 49-62.
Yeah, Farmington did what they had to do. We said that Hillsborough was going to be able to play Farmington. Hillsborough's a pretty good program, and they played them tough for a while, but Farmington was just too good. I mean, they're a really good basketball team, and it set up the final that we thought we were going to have.
Yeah, 13-point margin. I mean, I think that's pretty standard fare for competitive teams playing against each other around this area, especially. And then Cape Central versus Sykeston, 37-84.
Yeah, Sykeston is a train, and you might not want to be on the tracks because they are rolling right now. They jumped out and they immediately started trapping and pressing, and Cape Central said, "Here's the ball, you can take it and have layups." And it was just layup drills for Sykeston. They had a huge, I think it was like 49-15 or something like that at halftime. They just jumped on them early and wouldn't let off. And when Sykeston's doing that, it's tough to beat them. But they did. They started trapping early because they didn't want Cape to hold the ball on them, and they were not able to because it was just layup drills. And in 2 district games, Sykeston's outscored their opponents 197 to 101, plus 96 margin in 2 games. Have fun, Farmington. Farmington's really good, but this Sykeston team is locked in right now.
Yeah, I think everybody's ready for all these seniors on Sykeston to graduate. Yeah. If I had to say, they have been a menace for about 4 years now, I would say. So, Sykeston is a different animal, and to see them excel this well, especially against an opponent that they played 2 other times this year, and this time just kind of finally put the boot on them and just say, nope, this is ours and we're done. That game against Farmington, I'm hoping it's competitive.
Yeah. So is Farmington.
What else do you say about Sykeston at this point?
Yeah, they're just rolling. They're locked in, and this is the time of year that you want to be locked in. And the 2 teams that are locked in the most are Sykeston and Puxico, well, and Woodland as well. So all 3 of them they're locked in right now, and they're making these big pushes. And I expect to see all 3 of those make. Obviously 2 of them's in the Final Four. It's looking like Sykeston could very well be in that Final Four as well, the weekend after.
Yeah, but considering who their opponents might be.
It's going to be tough. But
yeah, once they get to that sectional, because you're most likely dealing with either Vianney or Webster Groves.
Yeah, Vianney or Webster. They're going to play in the championship on Monday night as well, but you're going to get them at the Fieldhouse. They've won 21 straight at the Fieldhouse, so that's a big bonus for you this year.
I think if you're a Sykeston senior especially, you're hoping it's Vianney just because you can kind of get your give back on how that game went last year.
Yeah, I think you match up better with Webster. Webster kind of plays more of a up-tempo style, a style that you like to play. Vianney, they're going to zone you up, and Walsh can get 35 or 40, and he's going to be able to facilitate to the other guys out there. He's probably the best guard in the area up around St. Louis, in my opinion. And, so I think they probably would match up better against Webster, but man, I think they would love to have Vianney as kind of a payback game as well. So I think they're good with either one of those teams that come down.
Yeah. I think if you're taking a team to the field house, you especially want to, how chippy that game was last year. Might want to chirp a little bit back, and having your full town behind you at that point, that kind of helps.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun if that game happens. So, you want to talk about Jackson real quick? They went out. It was a tough game. They lost to Seckman 58-56 in overtime, and it was tied at 51 at the end of regulation. But basically, it's free throw line. Seckman was 20 of 27 from the free throw line. They had two guys. This guy named Keegan Hydert was 10 of 15. Sam Wasson was 9 of 10 from the free throw line. Those two just pretty much just put it away, and Koldeck only had 11.
Man.
They were really able to shut him down, and he only got 11. Jory Toma had 18, but Jackson's season comes to an end. It was a pretty good season. I thought this was a district that they could win, but it was just unfortunate that they lost to Seckman twice in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and just unfortunate for them. But Seckman's having their best season in school history, and so they're going to be playing for a district title.
Yeah, it's really harsh, and we've talked about that several times. Just Koldeck as being that focal point on Jackson's offense, and when you lose that, when you're held to 11 points, I feel like the rest of the team kind of has to pick it up. And obviously, Jory Toma did that for what he needed to do, but at the same time, it's he gets shut when Koldeck gets shut down. It's hard to recover from that. Yeah,
it is, and just 11 points. That's just tough way to end your career if you're Koldeck, because you want to have a big game. You want to go out having a big game. But Seckman did a really, really nice job to guarding him, and he just couldn't get it. Just didn't have one of his best games.
And now Jackson's just got to pick up and reload for next year.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. They got some good young talent, so they're going to be fine. The Toma kid's going to be back, and obviously Ernst was just a freshman this year. They've got some good players to work with. They're going to be just fine.
All right, you want to talk about upcoming games?
Let's do it.
All right, Potosi versus Dexter.
First off, Dexter should call up Farmington and say we want to borrow some jerseys, because Potosi's only lost 4 games this year, all 4 to Farmington. And Dexter come out some Farmington jerseys, but that might help them. But no, there's a pathway for victory for Dexter in this game, I think. I mean, obviously Potosi's the favorite. I mean, they're having a great year. They've got some really good players. The Carter Whitley kid, tremendous player for Potosi. He was unstoppable against Puxico, and we know Puxico's got a good defense, so he's going to be tough to slow down. But Dexter needs to keep it low scoring. It needs to be, again, 50 or less. Potosi likes to get up and down and push the tempo, and I think Dexter needs to slow it down, guard very well. They've got to take care of the basketball. They only had 11 turnovers against Notre Dame. When they do that, you're going to win a lot more. I mean, because Dexter, if they're not turning it over, they're a pretty good basketball team, and they need to rebound well. Yeah. And I think those are the keys. You got to control pace, don't turn it over, and rebound well. If they can do those 3 things, I think they can win this game. So there's a pathway. I still think Potosi wins this game. I think they're just too good, but I think it's going to be a good game. And like I said, I hope there's a lot of Dexter people out there to support them. Yeah,
you say keeping a low scoring affair, and I think that's probably the best strategy. But at the same time, I feel like Dexter, when they can go blow for blow with most teams. So I think if it turns into just a layup match, I mean, like you said, as long as Dexter doesn't turn it over and gets their shots in, I feel like they can probably keep it, pretty even keel as far as score margin.
That's fair. I'm just thinking of can you frustrate Potosi? Potosi's a team who likes to get up and down. They're like Sykeston, like those teams who like to get up and down the floor. A lot of times you can frustrate them, and all of a sudden they get tight whenever they're not scoring their points. And, all of a sudden you're in a 2-point game, a 4-point game late. And, Potosi's used to running, and winning games by 10, 15 points. Then all of a sudden, they're in a tight game that they're not used to being in, which Dexter is apparently in. They're in tight games all the time. I mean, it's nothing for Dexter to be in, because they don't score a ton of points. So a lot of times, those games are a lot tighter than what you might see other teams play. So I like Dexter in a really close game like that, especially playing at home in the BEC.
Yeah, I could see it. Having your home crowd behind you, I feel like that adds that extra bit that oomph to you. And obviously this is probably going to be like a 50-50 game, something like that. I don't know how ticket sales work at this point. But
yeah, it's supposed to be 50-50, but once Potosi buys all those, and the Bearcat Event Center is so big that hopefully that you get a lot more extra Dexter people in there than Potosi. So hopefully that happens, and and Dexter fans buy those tickets and get out there and support them. I hope that BEC is full and is loud, because like I said, this is a state sectional game. I mean, this is something that you don't have. I mean, to my knowledge, Dexter's never hosted a home sectional game. I mean, they've hosted it for other classes or whatever, but this is Dexter, themselves, who get to play at home in front of their home crowd, and hopefully they pack it in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like Dexter's probably going to play this game a little bit with kind of a chip on their shoulder about it, because, they really haven't gotten the buzz this season that they probably think they deserve, especially winning a district title like they have. Yeah,
when your own radio station bails on you to go cover Puxico, it's kind of funny. It's like, but it happens, and it makes sense. I mean, Dexter has not been, they're 14-13. It's not a team that's been, a dominant team like Puxico this year, and so you understand it, and it's good for Dexter to win this game, and like I said, I hope people come out and support them.
Absolutely. And then let's move on to probably one of the biggest matchups that I can think of right now is Farmington and Sykeston.
Yeah, Farmington beat them by 7, back on Valentine's Day, and it's I think it's Valentine's Day, may have been January, I don't know. It was back in early, but they beat them by 7. Farmington's won 11 straight. Sykeston's won 9 straight. So both these teams are playing well coming in. Farmington's really good. They're playing at home. I mean, they've got their home announcers they're saying Shazam when they hit threes and stuff. Shazam. That's interesting. But they're gonna, the officials are going to be mineral area officials. So they've got a lot of things going their way, and so Sykeston's going to have to be playing well. But they seem to be locked in, and I think they're playing too well to lose this game. I think they're going to make a point that the first game they just didn't play very well, and I think even though Farmington is a very good team, I think Sykeston starts strong in this game and takes care of Farmington.
Yeah, I think this is a different Sykeston team than it was when they first played Farmington. I feel like all that disjunction that they kind of had to deal with, I think that's out of the way. I think they're playing their best basketball at the moment. Obviously, what they did to Cape Central is what they'd hope to do to Farmington. Whether that's the case, who knows? But I think I think they're on tempo right now for what they need to win this game.
Yeah, they're doing a really nice job. And like I said, they're locked in, and this is the time of year you want to be locked in. And man, you just you're. I mean, I don't know what else to say about this. Just hopefully it's a fun game. Farmington's really good. They're not going to back down, and they're not afraid of Sykeston. And so we'll see how this plays out. But I think Sykeston's just locked in. I think they're just playing too well.
Yeah, it's a funny thing to kind of experience too, because I think for most fans of a team, they're hoping for a gimme game in a sense, but for everybody else, they're hoping for a very competitive game. I mean, as somebody who enjoys watching Sykeston basketball, I'm hoping for a very 1 to 2 point win. But if that's going to happen, nobody from Sykeston wants that. They want to completely just out and out win.
I think Sykeston just wants to win. I don't care. 1 point, 20 points, 40 points.
Yeah.
You just want to win. And I don't think this game's going to be a turbo clock game. I think that I think Farmington's too good for that. But I think that I think Sykeston, I don't think it's a game, in the last couple seconds that you're going to have to worry about, Farmington hitting a shot to beat you or something like that. But I could be wrong too. I mean, it's,
I'd like to keep a running tally on how many times I've heard you said, I don't think this game's going to be a turbo clock game. And then it turns out to be a turbo clock game.
Well, I don't like saying that, hey, I think the team's going to beat you by 40 points. I don't like saying that on here. You don't like, just really kicking a team. But
I don't think that's going to happen in this game.
I don't. That's why I said it. But yeah, occasionally those games get out of hand. Occasionally.
Yeah. No, I think this game's going to be more of like a 10-point margin, I would say. Then let's talk about Final Four.
Yeah, let's do it.
So Puxico versus Canton.
Well, Canton, I think Puxico's a favorite in this game, but Canton's going to bring something that Puxico, I don't think, has seen. I mean, they've got 6'8", 6'4", 6'2".
It's a lot of size.
They've got a lot of size. So, I mean, it's going to be a little bit different. I think Puxico's guards are too good. I think their guard play is going to win out in this game. But, man, this Preston Brewer kid, 6'8", averages 25 a game, 12 rebounds a game, also gets 3 assists a game. I mean, so he's a really good player. They've got a 6'4" junior named Caden Oliver. He averages about 10 a game. Tyler Frazier is about 6'2", 6'3", gets about 8.5 a game. 6 rebounds. I mean, so they've got size. They got another kid, Blue Taylor, 6'4" senior. I mean, so they're gonna throw a bunch of size at you. But can they handle the ball against this Puxico defense? That's kind of the key, I think, for this game is the guard play for Puxico. You're not going to get a ton of second opportunities, you wouldn't think, with the size that Canton's going to bring. So you're going to have to make your shots.
Yeah.
But if you can force turnovers and get layups, you don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about missing shots and getting rebounds. And we've seen Puxico do that a lot this year, just to force those turnovers and get easy buckets on the other end. And I kind of expect to see that. I think Puxico wins this game, as long as they can turn Canton over. If Canton handles the ball well, then that'll be a tough test. But I really think these Puxico guards are going to be able to force turnovers and win this game.
Yeah, I think defense is probably going to be emblematic, as it always is for Puxico at this point. If they can frustrate a team, they can, like you said, turn the ball over, and then those points are free. Yeah. At the same time, I don't know what Canton's kind of 3-point blocking percentage, anything like that, like. How well they guard against a 3 ball? Yeah,
I mean, they're I don't know. I've not seen them play a ton. Just a little bit what I looked at. Getting ready for this, but they are a inside focused team. I mean, they can hit some threes but they're gonna try to get the ball inside. They try to use their size. So my guess is they're gonna try to pack in the zone, eliminate everything from inside. If you can hit those outside shots, then they're in trouble. And I would assume that's probably going to be what happens in this game. And we know that Puxico can hit those. So again, I think it's the guard play for Puxico is the key here. And just get rebounds when you can. Obviously, you're going to be kind of outmatched in the post a little bit, but and if you can get those guys, the big guys, in foul trouble, that's just even better. And a lot of times with your smaller guys, you can do that by getting some penetration inside and banging around a little bit. Just kind of depends on how the game's called at that point.
I think too, when you talk about just like size and players, I feel like Jet Hancock is going to be kind of crucial in that point, because I don't think he's afraid of size.
No, and you don't, and that's something, like I said, depending on how the game's called, that's something that could be huge, because if he can get into the rim, and bang around a little bit against these bigger guys and can get some foul calls, then they go to the bench, and you're usually not bringing 6'8" and 6'4" in to replace 6'8" and 6'4". Usually you're going a lot smaller, and that would be more beneficial for Puxico. So yeah, guard play is going to be huge for Puxico, and they're going to have to make shots, and but as long as they're making shots and forcing some turnovers, I think they're going to be okay in this game.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've seen them in high pressure games before. I don't think Puxico is going to have an issue with that. I mean, it's a bigger stage, obviously, but at the same time, I feel like they're too well coached at this point too.
Yeah, the good thing for them too is Canton is not a team that makes a ton of Final Fours and stuff. So it's not like they're a Chadwick team who comes in there who's played in the Mizzou Arena in this season. I mean, they're going to be in the exact same situation as Puxico. So yeah, I'm not there's no advantage that way. That's why I think Puxico gets that state championship game.
And then Eugene versus Lincoln.
Yeah, Eugene is the team. I think it's Eugene Puxico going to be in that final, and then it's may the best team win, because you're going to have two really, really good basketball teams. And Eugene, they've got some size as well, but not nearly what Canton has. Their top 3 players, they've got a 6'3" Isaac Bush, who can really score. He's a senior. They're a very senior loaded team. I got a 6'1" junior, Ethan Wunderlich, who's a good player. Justice Allen, a 5'7" senior. He can really shoot it. Really good guard, handles it well. He's not somebody who's going to turn the ball over a lot. So, it's going to be a kind of a different look. Eugene likes to push the tempo. They're going to pressure the ball. They're going to try to force you into some turnovers. So they are a lot like Puxico, and I think those two teams match up very well. I think that would be just an outstanding basketball game if those two teams could play. I don't know much about Lincoln. Looking at the scores, it looks like Eugene's kind of the big favorite in this one. So, and Eugene's been like the top team in Class 2 all year. And Puxico's been in the top 4 pretty much all year. So I think those are the two teams that everybody's kind of looking to play in this championship game. And that's kind of what I'm expecting as well. And Puxico has just as good a chance as Eugene to win it. I mean, it's anybody's game at that point.
Who do you think of the teams that Puxico has played that Eugene would kind of most resemble?
Themselves. I mean, if you want to, just from what I've seen, from how they play, I watched a couple of their games, some highlights and stuff. They look a lot like Puxico. They've got guards that can get to the rim, but they can also shoot it. They play very good defensively. They play bigger. Their big guys inside aren't huge, but they play bigger than their size. I just think they match up. They look a lot like each other, and that's why it'd be such a fun game to see. And it's just hey, which team's playing the best that game? You comes out of there with the state title, and that's what you want to see in a state championship game. And man, I would love to see that because like I said, Puxico has a chance to win a state title. I said it after they won district title that they've got the best chance of any Southeast Missouri team to bring home that first place hardware, and that would be the perfect game for them to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And going to the Final Four for the first time in 72 years and taking home a chip. I mean, what's better than that?
Yeah, can't get any better than that. That's awesome.
All right, and then to talk about Woodland versus Principia.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Principia is one of the best teams in the state, and Woodland's they've got a tough task ahead of them. I mean, it's a tough matchup. Some colleges, man, would love to recruit like Principia does, but when you're a private school up in St. Louis, you have some options that a lot of other schools don't, and they've taken advantage of it. But man, they are loaded and they're deep. They're a team that's going to run probably more guys in and out than Woodland does. Principia beat Sykes earlier this year. They've only lost once this year. They've got a guard named Quentin Coleman, 6'3" junior combo guard. Man, he's just good. He averages about 20 a game. But they've got a bunch of other guys too. They're 6'9", 6'7", in their front line with a couple of sophomores, Seco Cisse and Ron Henry. They got some 6'3", they're all like 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". I mean, they're size, athletic. It's just going to be really, really tough for Woodland. It's just, but there's only two teams that can in that game, and only one's going to win it. So Woodland's got a chance.
Yeah.
You just have to go in, and Woodland, I think, is going to have to play a perfect game, and they're going to have to really do a number defensively on Principia.
Yeah, and I don't think any of this is beyond Coach Kinder at this point. I think he knows exactly what he's going up against. I'm sure he's got film to look at and kind of measure and see what kind of advantages he can kind of pull out of his team. But I think this team is scrappy enough that they can at least make a dent in this, if not, play a very competitive game.
Yeah, and hopefully they're competitive in this, and you just want to get, for Woodland, you just want to give yourself a chance at the end. You just don't want to get blown out, and you're up there for 2 games, so you leave it out all on the floor in your semifinal game, and then just see what you got left in the next game. But I'm sure they're going to throw out all the stops. I'm sure they're going to have a game plan. I would assume that Coach Kinder's probably going to get in touch with Coach Hollifield since they've played, and I think that they played Principia's played some other teams in Southeast Missouri too. You call up those coaches and see what you'll get together and see if you can come up with a game plan. And I'm sure they're going to have one. You've got almost a week to prepare. So I mean, you've got there's going to be time there. So but they are a little bit outmatched, and so we'll just see how it plays out.
And then finally, Thayer versus Kip KC Legacy.
The Gators.
The Gators.
Who's the Gator Chomp? Yeah. I don't know a thing about them other than they're from Kansas City and they're the Gators.
I know they play every team that I thought I knew the name of, but it turns out it's more the Kansas City side teams.
And not the St. Louis side.
No. So.
I don't know a thing about them. I do know that Thayer is very well coached. They're a very physical team. They're very sound defensively. They're a tough team. They're going to be they're going to be tough to knock out. They're used to success. But I don't know what a Kip is. I don't know anything about them, and they could come in with a bunch of NBA guys, and I would not have a clue. That I've not heard anything about them, and I wasn't able to find much information about them either.
Yeah, I just know more about Thayer at this point, and I don't really follow Thayer as much, but I've seen them play, and I don't know.
I mean, obviously they're a good team. They beat Puxico.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously they're a good team. And
early in the year.
Yeah, but still, I mean, that's still early in the year, late in the year. That's a good win. And they've only lost 4 games. They've got a really good record, and they're, like I said, they've got a really good program there. They're a team with some size. They play real physical. So we'll see what they bring, and if they get to the championship, then. Principia is obviously the favorite to win the state title in Class 3. And the other 3 teams, I think, are probably very similar.
Mm-hmm. And, Principia might be favored. That doesn't mean I don't want Woodland to win.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
I would love to see an upset. I'd love to see a Hoosiers type upset in that game. That would be so much fun. I mean, that would just be awesome.
Yeah. And, I like this Woodland team a lot. We talked about them early in the year, especially. I feel like they're back on that groove of where they were before that final in the Stoddard County. Obviously, because they made the Final Four. So, I think this year's state finals are going to be interesting.
Yeah. And you're going to have a front row seat up there. That's going to be fun for you guys.
I will. Obviously, we're probably going to talk about it, on the A-Corp Sports social media, but sending myself and another producer up there to go produce for Misha. Very excited for the opportunity. Very excited to get to see these games up close. Didn't think we'd get to do that anytime soon. So, yeah, no, I'm stoked about it.
Yeah, you guys are going to have a lot of fun up there, and the podcast. I'm going to step away next week and someone's going to step in for me on the podcast next week.
Yeah,
and,
I'm going to see how well versed in talking to a microphone my coworker Josh is.
Yeah, we're go Bloomfield, go Bloomfield. I'm going to guess that we're going to get some Bloomfield talk on the podcast, maybe. But yeah. So then I'll be back when you guys get back. But yeah. So you can. I want you guys to have a bunch of fun up there. That's really cool. I've been to a ton of Final Fours. Man, we were talking maybe 20 plus. I was talking to a friend of mine that I've been to over the last 25, 30 years, and it's a lot of fun. And so you guys are gonna do a great job and have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, excited about it. All right, Dave, any final thoughts for the episode?
Nope. Just I hope I would love to see be back on next Sunday. We're talking about 4 teams, 2 of them with the state title, and 2 of them getting ready to play for a state title. That would be awesome. But we'll just see. And let's we got 4 teams left, and I hope all 4 teams continue rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, this has been the SEMO Sports Zone. Thanks for listening.